What's up guys, my name is Ace, and Modern Warfare 2's perk system leaves a lot to be desired. Generally speaking, it seems like it wasn't very well received by the community. And in many recent years with Call of Duty, they have made perk changes down the road where they've either swapped some perk slots or just adjusted some perks in general, and in some cases even added new perks to the game. So I thought it would just be a fun idea to make a video to share my ideal perk changes for Modern Warfare 2. What I would do if I were in charge to make a better perk system using the existing perks that are already in the game. I didn't want to just like scrap everything, start from scratch with brand new perks, but if I was stuck mainly within the confines of the perks that currently exist, how would I structure things? Now, of course, I don't expect the devs are going to watch this and just implement every change that I'm suggesting. Like I said, this is more so just for fun. It's just kind of a thought exercise. And also, I just wanted to share my ideas with you guys to get some feedback on it. So I'm in no way making this video with the expectation that all of this is going to change. And also, if you disagree with me, that's totally fine. Please just let me know why in the comments down below. But let's dive right into it, and the first thing we'll talk about is how the current perks are structured in Modern Warfare 2. If you already know every little nitty-gritty detail, you can just skip ahead to the next chapter. I always try to include chapters in my videos. But as it is right now, we have base, bonus, and ultimate perks. You get 2 base perks for free, and you spawn in immediately with those. You don't have to charge them up or anything. Whereas for the bonus and ultimate perks, you do charge them over time. And the current charge times that they have for these is for our bonus perk. If you do absolutely nothing in the match, you don't earn any score, it's going to take 3.5 minutes to charge, and 7 minutes for your ultimate. However, as you earn score, for every 10 score that you earn, it will cut 1 second off of that charge time. So every kill in a TDM game, for instance, will cut off 12.5 seconds because you get 125 score, and that does add up fairly quickly, so it isn't actually going to take you a full 3.5 minutes to charge your bonus and 7 minutes to charge your ultimate, but you still do have to charge them over time. Now, the reception for this system where you have to charge up your perks over time has generally been quite negative in the community, and I'm one of the people that really doesn't like this system. I don't think it adds anything interesting to the gameplay experience, yet I do feel like it takes away from the gameplay experience in many ways. I think the initial intent of this system was to have your gameplay sort of evolve throughout a match. So at the beginning, you start with very basic perks that don't really have a massive impact on your playstyle, but then as time goes on, you unlock your bonus and your ultimate perks, and therefore you sort of power up and you get these bonuses over time, and as a result, you evolve your gameplay over time as well throughout a match. On paper, it seemed like kind of a neat idea. However, in practice, with my experience, instead of these perks feeling like a nice boost or a bonus when you earn them, it feels much more like you're just being actively held back for an arbitrary reason until you earn the perks and now you've unlocked the playstyle that you wanted to play with from the beginning. And to me, this just reduces playstyle variety because there's very little room to specialize for a particular playstyle until you get your perks charged up. So for the beginning of matches, you don't have that sort of variety between different players, and the choices that you make with your perks don't really matter all that much toward the beginning. Also, for some of the perks that are really playstyle defining, Ghost is the best example here. Ghost is essentially required for a proper stealth playstyle. You don't even have access to that playstyle until your ultimate perk is charged up, which is just annoying. It's like, hey, if I want to be stealthy and flank enemy players, why do I have to wait until like the second half of the match in order to use the playstyle that I want to use to begin with? How would it hurt the game in any way if everybody could just have all of their perks active from the beginning, while ensuring that there are proper trade-offs within the tiers of perks? And this is why, with my ideal system, I would honestly just scrap the charge up completely. It's cool that they wanted to try something new, but in my eyes, it was a flop, and I think the more traditional style of perks, where you don't have to charge them up over time, would yield a lot more variety and a lot more replayability in the game, and I do feel this new system is simply inferior. Now, with that in mind, if we were reverting back to a 3-tiered perk system, I would also say they should restructure a lot of the perks so that there are proper trade-offs and you don't have obvious crutch perks in each tier. And going over that, let's start off with what I would have as my tier 1 perks. I really like the idea of having your tier 1 perk as your really playstyle defining perk. These are the ones that would be most highly sought after in general, and this is how I would structure it with the existing perks in the game. I'd have Overkill, High Alert, Bomb Squad, Cold-Blooded, Ghost, and Quick Fix, all in tier 1. I think this would be a great selection that would provide a lot of great trade-offs, since you can only have one of these at any given time. If you want to be a turtle and rock Overkill with a shield on your back, now you don't get Bomb Squad, you don't get Ghost, you don't get Quick Fix, you don't get any of those things, so you're making a proper sacrifice to gain that power. Same thing goes if I want to choose Ghost and I want to stay off the radar and be really stealthy and flanky, I don't get Bomb Squad, so now I'm vulnerable to explosives. Or I don't get High Alert, which gives me all that free information letting me know when an enemy is looking at me from off screen. Or I don't get Quick Fix, so I can't heal quickly on an objective or shortly after a kill. I think all of these combined into the same tier makes for a very competitive tier of perks, and honestly, I would have several different class setups with different tier 1 perks here because they all provide such great benefits and allow you to specialize in different areas. For me at least, none of these would be an absolute obvious choice on like all of my class setups, and I think that should be a big aim when balancing a perk system. Now, all of these perks would work exactly the same as they currently do for me, with one exception. This is the Ghost perk. Personally, I feel Call of Duty is much better off with the style of Ghost perk that disables if you're stationary for a certain period of time. I know some people disagree with that, and that's totally fine, but the way I would handle it is I'd make it fairly forgiving. So Ghost only works while on the move, but it doesn't disable until you're stationary for about 4 or 5 seconds. This gives you plenty of time to get a reload in if you need to just take a second, or to check your mini-map real quick and like gauge your surroundings before pushing on and making another move. It gives you plenty of forgiveness with the Ghost perk, but if you just want to sit on one piece of cover and lock that down, or you want to sit in some random corner to shoot an unsuspecting enemy that runs by, then you don't get the benefits of the Ghost perk. This would also just help to make sure that the Ghost perk doesn't become a crutch within this tier of perks. Additionally, something I definitely want to see done with Ghost, regardless of whether or not they're doing any sort of perk reworks in general, I feel like they really need to fix the interaction of Ghost and a suppressor. If I fire a suppressed gun, I don't see why it should be turning off my Ghost perk. That seems completely counterintuitive to me. That's something I definitely want to see fixed no matter what. But there we go, that's the first tier of perks. Now let's move on to my second tier of perks. And in this one, we would have Resupply, Overclock, Bird's Eye, Focus, Fast Hands, and Hardline. And with all of these perks, they provide nice little bonuses to your character. They're not really about counterplay or really defining a playstyle or anything. They're just nice bonuses to add on top of whatever playstyle that you're using. Again, while looking at these perks, I feel like I would use a decent amount of variety there. I'd definitely probably still lean a bit more in the direction of Fast Hands, because that really suits the playstyles that I enjoy. However, I could totally see myself using Bird's Eye every now and then as well, or the Focus perk, especially if I'm using more of a precision gun. Or some class setups, I might want a lot of field upgrades, I'll use Overclock. I definitely feel like there'd be a decent amount of variety in choice with this tier as well. And with these ones, I wouldn't touch anything as far as their performance in the game. I'd leave them exactly as they are. And this just leaves us with the last tier of perks. And this one, there's a lot more shuffling around going on, and I am cutting one perk and introducing a new one as well. So in this tier of perks, I would have Double Time, Battle Hardened. I would combine Strong Arm and the Extra Tactical perk together, just like I would also combine Spotter and Tracker. And the reason for this combination is just to make it so these would actually be viable, because on their own, in relation to the other perks in this tier, they wouldn't really be a viable choice. Whereas if you combine them, now they're a bit more attractive, and I could see people going in that direction with them. But on top of that, we'd also have Scavenger, and I would introduce the Ninja perk here as well. Now with this, just a few notes. When it comes to that Spotter plus Tracker perk, to make this even a little bit more attractive, since I don't think that's particularly attractive as is, I would also add on the characteristic that we've seen in the past with perks that delays the trigger of enemy defensive equipment, like claymores or proximity mines, or even like the suppression mine field upgrade. Just make it so if you trigger one of those, there's like a 1-second delay. It gives you a chance to just sprint through them if you'd like. And I just think that would be a nice bonus that would make this attractive in relation to something like Battle Hardened, Double Time, or Ninja. Additionally, with the Scavenger perk to make it a little bit more attractive, because on its own, it may not be the most competitive here, I would also just make it so you spawn in with maximum reserve ammo as well. So basically, if you're using Scavenger, you should really never have to worry about running out of ammo at all. And then finally, with the introduction of the Ninja perk, I realize this has somehow become very controversial over the years, even though it never was in the past with Call of Duty. Just to make sure it doesn't make people too upset that we could dampen our footstep audio, even though it's something we've always been able to do in Call of Duty before Modern Warfare 2019, I would make it the weakest version of the Ninja perk we've ever seen. Make it just cut footstep audio in half. That way, an enemy can definitely still hear you sprinting up to them, especially in a quiet environment, but they're just going to have to pay more attention to when that happens. And honestly, if it were balanced in this way, I don't think Ninja would necessarily be an obvious choice, especially with the current state of footsteps in the game. For respawn game modes, I honestly feel like I don't really need Ninja with the current state of footsteps. But with non-respawn game modes, yeah, I'd probably want to go in the direction of Ninja. However, then I would be sacrificing Battle Hardened as well as double time, so my opening routes won't be as efficient, and I'll be easily countered by stuns and flashes and things like that. And when you combine all of these together, again, I feel like there would be a decent amount of variety here, and I could see people using any one of these perks in this tier, depending on how they like to play the game. And with that, here's what my final perk system would look like using the existing perks in the game. One thing you may have noticed though, I don't have the Survivor perk anywhere in these tiers, and that's honestly because I don't feel like this perk should even be in the game to begin with. This style of perk used to exist early on in Call of Duty, and it was generally hated by the community. So much so that it was heavily celebrated when they finally got rid of Last Stand or Final Stand type of perks. And it just blew my mind that they decided to bring it back for this game. I have no idea why they decided to do that. This perk serves essentially no purpose aside from trying to annoy the enemy players. It's not really all that beneficial to be using it for yourself more often than not. And therefore, I just don't think it adds to the gameplay experience for really anybody involved, so I'd get rid of it completely. And this leaves us with 3 really nicely balanced tiers of perks, at least in my opinion. And with this, I know I'd have a wide variety of different class setups with totally different perk structure, because at least in my opinion, like I said, these tiers are balanced really well with proper trade-offs and sacrifices involved. I also feel with a system like this, since we would be seeing a lot more variety in selection of these perks, we'd also start to see more specialization in different ways, which would yield much more diversity in playstyles in a match. And that's the type of thing that would improve replayability over time, because you're not using the same perks and same playstyle every game. You've got different ways to go that are really viable. And that's not only for you, but it's also the types of enemies you'll run into. You'd see a lot more specialization in different types. You'd have that one guy on the enemy team that's being stealthy and flanking, and the counterplay to them is use high alert, because they can't use cold-blooded then, and therefore they can't counter you, so you get alerted of their presence. Or use some explosives on them, because they can't use bomb squad, so they're vulnerable to that. And this would just mean you'd have a bunch of different players on different teams specializing in different areas and playing in different ways, which improves overall variety compared to everybody kind of being on a level playing field, waiting for their good perks to charge up over time so then they can finally start specializing. But even then, when you look at the current balance of the tiers, I don't think they're in a good place. And therefore, even once the perks are charged up, we're not seeing a ton of variety in the perk usage. And with that, that's going to wrap it up for today's video. Just sharing my ideal perk system, again, generally within the confines of the current perks that we have access to. Of course, like I said, I don't anticipate they're going to be implementing this or anything. It's just in my perfect world, I think this would significantly improve the game. And with that, I am curious to hear from you guys in the comments section down below. What do you guys think about this proposed change that I have to the perk system? Is this a system that you feel like you would like more than the current system? Or not so much? Do you see some flaws with this potential system? And do you think it could be optimized even further? Just let me know down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated. And don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.